Our next speaker has a PhD in urban design. He's accomplished architect and urbanist. He is currently the professor at architecture faculty in Gliwice in Silesia and was recently elected a vice dean for research. He's author of 3 books and awarded with a scholarship from the famous Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Privately, he's a proud father of 3 daughters, and I think it's safe to say a husband of one wife. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Michał Stangel.
Hello, I'm an architect. Not a software architect, as I guess many of you might be, but an architect and urbanist. Urbanists are interested in cities. We analyze cities, we design cities, we plan cities. We like cities which are beautiful, which are compact, which are green, cities which are full of people, cities where you can have public transportation, cities when you can rest in a park, cities when you can bike. So what about the airport city? Isn't the area around airport a wasteland he was just talking about? Well, actually, these pictures I have taken at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, and they prove that airports are becoming more and more like a city. Here we see the airport tower and the office complex in front of it, and a park with a pond. This is the Schiphol Plaza with people, of course, traveling, but also sitting in the cafes, meeting their friends, hanging around. This is the airport bus hub, but this is the picnic. They are actually plane spotters. They came here to take a picnic and watch the biggest planes landing. And the bike path, that was quite a surprise. I took the Schiphol tour, and actually we've seen this building, and it turned out that it's a prison. It's an airport detention center, one of the biggest in Europe, and it's located close to the airport for obvious reasons, to minimize transportation costs of the detentees. So the airport is becoming like a city. And why does it happen? Well, airports are more and more important in our globalized world. In today's economy, connectivity is a must. And airports are those places where locality and globality meets, which connect cities to the world. So in a way, thanks to internet and thanks to global air traffic and logistics, the world is shrinking. And there is a common rule how cities emerged in the past and how they still develop. They often develop at the transportation nodes. It's a very simplified diagram, but we can imagine it's a crossroads, it's an intersection of trade routes, maybe it's a railway station or a port, and something happens. Somebody starts a business there, some railway station or other thing is located. And then more people come, more businesses come, and they decide to locate their operation there. And then more people come, more business, more offices, more operations, and that's how the city expands. Of course, the airports are first located outside the city, but soon we discovered the same process happening. Airports attract new functions, airport attracts new businesses. First in the terminal, we don't only have passengers, but we have retail, of course, we have restaurants, we have conference centers, hairdressers, chapels, then we have casinos, art galleries. In some airports we already have spas, massage centers, and all sorts of things to make the experience for traveling better. Of course, the most important part is the business part, the industry part. At the airport, we have more and more commercial centers, hotels, cargo, logistics, manufacturing, and so on. More and more airports decide to engage in real estate as a second part of their operation, exceeding flight operation. And more and more airports, it's an important part of their businesses. So scholars have classified these activities in a way. We have first core aeronautical activities, those directly related to air traffic. Then we have airport-oriented activities, like hotels, conference centers, transportation nodes, something related to traffic. But then we have airport-oriented activities which do not necessarily need to have anything to do with aviation, but they come because it's a good place. They come because it's a prosperous place which acts like a magnet, and in a snowball effect, businesses are clustering. Pretty much like Andrew was speaking about the businesses which come to Krakow. So what's the airport city? Is an airport city to a city like a business park to a park, or like a shopping gallery to a gallery? Is it just a name, or is there something more to it? Of course, in many cases, it's a name. It's a branding name, like in this airport city for Belgrade. In many cases, it's expanding airport's operation towards real estate. But in more and more cases, it's actually a real city, a real urban processes which we urban designers take interest in. They are happening at the airport. That's an interesting example of Eindhoven in the Netherlands. This was a master plan done 16 years ago for a business district by a prestigious Dutch architecture firm. And actually, most of it is completed now. I have visited it a few years ago. Flight Forum is composed of buildings, offices, green spaces, restaurants, everything the business city might need. And more of such places are being either already developed or master planned and envisioned in several airports. This is an example of Düsseldorf. Some businesses are already there. Expansion is planned with all sorts of offices, facilities for people, and as we see, lots of green space. This is the example from Manchester. And according to some scholars, there are already more than 200 airport city projects all over the world. I don't know about Lukla Airport, the one in Himalayas, I don't think so, but 200 airports and more are expanding, and the airport city concept is already taken off so much that there is even a computer game, sort of like the good old SimCity, but for an airport city. So let's go back for a minute to Schiphol. This is the airport city seen from above, but there is more. Between the city of Amsterdam and the airport, there is a whole new commercial district, Zuidas, which emerged there because of the excellent connectivity in what is called the airport corridor. The whole strip of land between the city and the airport, where connectivity is excellent and which becomes a favored business location. In an even bigger scale, there is this hypothesis of Aerotropolis, which is actually proved in the biggest airport, in the hub airports of the world, where a whole region of around 30 or more kilometers around is affected by airport's location, which makes it a favorable place for new functions. There have been some classifications, how this process works in different places. In most places, of course, it's a mixed process. There are different factors shaping the airport city. What's interesting for an urbanist is that airport cities seem to follow the same path as several other kinds of districts. There are synergies between the airport city and the surrounding. Urbanists have been talking for centuries about polycentric metropolis, a metropolis where you have different centers, different kinds of districts, like, of course, home neighborhoods, urban centers, campuses, business districts. And in these systems, airport cities become new nodes for urban activity. In the medium scale, we have the neighborhood, and urbanists have been prizing compact development, which is more sustainable, more resource efficient, where we have a dense structure of multifunctional buildings. And compact cities seem to follow the path of transit-oriented development with an airport-oriented development, beginning from the terminal and expanding from it. And on the scale of buildings and the relation of building and open space, we see that similar volume of buildings can be organized in a different way, and the quality of organization and the mix of functions actually improves the spaces in between. Well, this is a simple diagram, but this means the green spaces that we have seen in the airport city projects. The squares, the piazzas, everything what we like in traditional urban centers, it is now also priced and planned at airport cities. And one of the best examples of that is Stockholm Airport City. If we didn't see the terminal around, we might think Is it an urban center, or maybe it's a new neighborhood? And actually, this is the plan for the airport cities. Compact blocks, streets, trees, plazas, squares, parks, piazzas. And all this promises a true urban environment for an urban lifestyle. Well, in Poland, it seems that the phenomenon has already taken off. And this is a picture I took in London 16 years ago, when, as many Poles, I went to work when we joined the EU. And many Brits started coming to Krakow more and more for the cheap beer. And since that, air traffic has tripled in Poland, and it's still predicted to expand steadily. And because of that, we need bigger airports, we need better airports, we need better infrastructure. So Polish airports have been modernized, there have been railways brought to the airports, there have been new runways, some new airports were constructed, and of course we have lots of business development at the airports. The most eminent example is Warsaw. We have 2 hotels right across the terminal. We have lots of offices. We have some office parks. We have some parkings. Actually, I was working on a 20-hectare master plan of a big new commercial district near the Warsaw Airport, but I'm not supposed to show the pictures. But the key projects, the flagship projects at the airport in Warsaw is Chopin Airport City. This was a winning master plan from 6 years ago, and this is how the project is developed further. As we see, it resembles very much the projects from other Western airports. Dense urban development, also the facilities for an urban lifestyle, lots of green spaces, and walking connectivity to the terminal, and walking connectivity, of course, to the excellent transportation at the terminal. And the promise of a nice urban environment. In Gdańsk, there are already some offices right at the airport. There is the Polish center headquarters for Intel. There is a beginning of a business park, and the operator of the business park is envisioning this expansion right near the airport parking. And at the same time, the airport is planning to convert its parking into multi-level parking and use the wasted space in a way to create a business district. Interestingly, these 2 pictures are never combined. There is no coordination between the 2 projects. Probably it's too competitive at the moment. In Rzeszów, we have business zones right near the airport, quite successful. And recently, we have a completed conference venue. Well, it might not be the best example of architecture, but it's the function that matters for now. So we are in Krakow, and in Krakow, the same phenomenon has started. This is the airport city. This is the airport surrounding as envisioned a few years ago. Actually, now these buildings are completed. This is the new terminal, the parking on the other side, the hotel, and the street between them. But the plans are much more ambitious. The plans are to create development land by the airport where businesses could come. This is, of course, a very simplified visualization, but it shows a promise of some sort of dense urban quarter quality. In a way, a modern reinterpretation of Krakow center, perhaps. In Krakow, it's on one hand a strategic project for the municipality, and there is a lot of talk about Airport City. On the other hand, there is a lot of competition and lack of agreement between there are very many different landowners, and the airport actually lies outside Krakow municipality. So probably in the next years we will see what comes out of it. But we already have a good transportation with the railway coming right to the airport. Even the smaller airports, they already learned about the idea of Airport City, and they are inviting investors. I come from Silesia, and in Katowice this situation is a bit different because the airport is more far away from the city. It's 30 kilometers to the north. And there are all sorts of small businesses like parkings, restaurants. But the ambitions are bigger. A few years ago, we were commissioned at our university to envision a master plan for how the area in front of the terminal could be developed together with the new terminal. So after some analysis and some consultations, we came up with this. We have a new railway station, which apparently takes rather long to be built, but it's planned there. We have a link to the terminal. We have some business, some offices, some hotels, some parking space, of course. So this is still a story of the future, but Katowice has actually already started constructing so-called cargo city. Thanks to the excellent transportation in Silesia and different logistics opportunities, this apparently is planned to be like the second cargo place in Poland after Warsaw. A student of mine did her thesis about envisioning a Silesian aerotropolis. This is, of course, a very far-reaching concept, but she analyzed potential threads of opportunities, how the corridors between the airport and the cities could be developed, and she came up with this diploma, which she actually got an award for. Well, we will see what the future brings. So we know that airports are becoming like cities, and we know that urbanists take interest in them. But what is even more interesting, I think, that airports are test beds for all sorts of inventions and innovations. Transportation innovations, like the autonomous hubs in Heathrow. They are driverless cars, basically. They are electric driverless cars. There is all sort of talk. Google is testing it and so on. And in Heathrow, they are testing it on a small district scale of the airport. There are monorails, like the one in Düsseldorf. In Eindhoven, there is a hotel built right at the airport. And we might say just a hotel built over a terminal. But let's imagine the implications of connectivity, where you do not need to get out of the terminal. You can go directly to a hotel, or you can go directly to a conference room. Perhaps, for instance, there could be some new kind of conference centers where you would not need to experience jet lag. Imagine people coming from the States to Europe, people coming from Japan, and in some kind of environment when you don't need to know what the time is outside, you could meet, discuss, and go home without all the jet lag experience. There are also things tested like this at the airports. And some spaces get a unique beauty, actually. This is an airport plaza at Munich. I think it's basically a really beautiful place. And some airports crave sustainability, like the airport in Mexico, designed by Foster Partners, is supposed to be the most sustainable airport on the world through a friendly environment with lots of green spaces. In some airports, there are experiments with media, new interactive installations, projections, to create a better experience for the passengers, to create a better identity for the place. So basically, as William Gibson said, the future is now, but it's not evenly distributed. I think that airports are among these places where future comes early. So if you want to know about the future, stay tuned and watch the spaces at the airports. And if you read Polish, you might want to read my book. Thank you for listening.